My name is Ethan, and for years, I believed I had a stable and loving marriage with my wife, Jessica. We had built a life together filled with trust, mutual respect, and dreams for the future. However, subtle changes began to occur. Jessica's behavior became more secretive, and our conversations turned into stilted exchanges. Despite my growing unease, I clung to the belief that our marriage was solid. The night I stumbled upon undeniable evidence of Jessica's betrayal marked the beginning of the end. Confronting her about the affair was excruciating, and our relationship became a battleground of emotional distance and constant arguments. Driven by hurt and the desire for retribution, I rationalized an affair of my own with Sarah. Initially, it felt empowering, but it only added more chaos and guilt. The day Jessica discovered my affair led to an explosive confrontation, forcing us to acknowledge our mutual betrayal. Receiving the divorce papers, I was surprised by Jessica's request for joint counseling sessions. Through intense sessions, we confronted our mistakes and found some closure. Reflecting on this journey, I learned the importance of communication and the destructive power of unaddressed grievances. Trust, once broken, has devastating consequences, and facing our mistakes is the true path to healing. Hello, my friends. I hope all you are fine. This is Narrative Stories channel. Let's start this story. My name is Ethan, and for years, I believed I had a stable and loving marriage with my wife, Jessica. We had built a life together filled with trust, mutual respect, and dreams for the future. From the outside, our relationship appeared perfect, and even I thought we were invincible. But as time went on, subtle changes began to occur. Little things that were once insignificant started to seem out of place. Jessica's behavior became more secretive, and she often stayed late at work without a clear reason. Our conversations, which used to flow effortlessly, turned into stilted exchanges filled with uncomfortable silences. It was as if an invisible barrier had formed between us, and I couldn't figure out why. Our relationship became a battleground of emotional distance and constant arguments. The trust we once had was gone, replaced by suspicion and resentment. Every conversation turned into a fight, with both of us hurling accusations and dredging up past grievances. The love that once bound us now felt like a chain dragging us down. We were stuck. As these cracks started to show, I tried to dismiss them, attributing her behavior to stress or the demands of her job. But the gnawing feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. I found myself questioning her more often, seeking reassurance that everything was all right. Each time, Jessica would brush off my concerns with a smile that no longer reached her eyes, insisting that nothing was wrong. Yet, the more she dismissed my worries, the more they grew. Our once stable foundation was beginning to feel shaky, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously amiss. Despite my growing unease, I clung to the belief that our marriage was solid. I hoped that whatever was causing the rift between us would eventually pass. But deep down, I knew we were heading toward a breaking point. I just didn't realize how close we were until the night I stumbled upon the first undeniable clue of her betrayal. That night marked the beginning of the end of the life I thought I knew, and the start of a journey that would test me in ways I never imagined. The first real clue came one night when Jessica came home late yet again. This time, she seemed particularly agitated and nervous. As she showered, her phone, which she usually kept close, lay unattended on the kitchen counter. A message popped up from her boss, Mark, and my curiosity got the better of me. I picked up the phone and read the message. It was innocuous enough, a simple, "Thank you for tonight," but something about it felt off. I scrolled through their conversation and found a string of messages that were more intimate than any boss should be sending his employee. My heart raced as I continued reading. The messages were flirtatious and suggestive, and it was clear that their relationship went far beyond professional boundaries. A cold, heavy feeling settled in my stomach as the reality of the situation began to sink in. I felt a mix of shock, anger, and overwhelming sadness. How could she betray me like this? The woman I loved, The one I had shared my life and dreams with was involved with another man. In the days that followed, I couldn't stop thinking about those messages. I replayed every interaction I'd had with Jessica, searching for signs I might have missed. Each memory now seemed tainted with doubt and suspicion. I started watching her more closely, noticing every late night, every unexplained outing, and every whispered phone call. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions, and I couldn't focus on anything else. One evening, I decided to follow her after she left for what she claimed was a work meeting. I watched from a distance as she met Mark at a hotel. They embraced, and I felt as if the ground had been pulled out from under me. The evidence was undeniable, and the pain was excruciating. My trust in Jessica was shattered, and I knew our marriage would never be the same. The betrayal was real, and I was left to grapple with the aftermath, unsure of what to do next. Confronting Jessica was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. My hands shook and my heart pounded as I sat her down to talk. I could barely contain my anger and hurt, but I needed to hear her side of the story. As I revealed what I knew, her face paled, and she looked down, unable to meet my eyes. I demanded an explanation, but she seemed lost for words, caught between denial and the weight of her guilt. Eventually, she admitted to the affair. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper, as she tried to explain. She spoke of feeling neglected and unappreciated, of finding comfort and excitement in the attention Mark gave her. Each word felt like a knife twisting in my heart. She tried to justify her actions, saying she never intended for things to go this far, that it just happened. But nothing she said could erase the betrayal I felt. In a cycle of blame and hurt, unable to find a way out. The emotional strain was unbearable. Nights were sleepless, filled with thoughts of what had gone wrong, and if there was any way to salvage our marriage. But the more we tried to communicate, the more apparent it became that we were only hurting each other. The initial confrontation had opened a Pandora's box of pain and mistrust, and neither of us knew how to close it. We were two broken people clinging to the fragments of a shattered relationship, unsure if there was any hope for repair. As the days turned into weeks, the pain of Jessica's betrayal didn't lessen. Instead, it festered, turning into a desire for revenge. I felt powerless and humiliated, and I wanted to regain some semblance of control over my life. My thoughts became consumed with getting back at her, making her feel the same hurt and betrayal she had inflicted on me. It wasn't a rational decision, but at the time, it felt like the only way to cope with my shattered trust and broken heart. Rationalizing my need for revenge, I convinced myself that an affair of my own would even the score. I began frequenting places I knew I could meet someone new. Bars, social events, even online dating sites. It wasn't long before I met Sarah, a woman who was intriguing and seemed interested in me. Our initial interactions were innocent enough, but there was an underlying current of mutual attraction. I saw in Sarah an opportunity to reclaim my sense of worth and control. Our conversations became more frequent and intimate. I shared with her the pain of my wife's betrayal, and she listened with empathy. She had her own experiences with betrayal, which created a bond between us. One night, after a particularly intense argument with Jessica, I reached out to Sarah and we decided to meet. As we spent time together, the lines between emotional support and romantic involvement blurred. Before I knew it, I was in the midst of an affair. I felt a temporary sense of empowerment, as if I had regained some control over my life. The affair with Sarah provided a distraction from the pain and a way to assert my independence. However, beneath the surface, there was a nagging guilt and confusion. I knew I was only adding more chaos to an already tumultuous situation, but I couldn't stop myself. I was driven by a mix of hurt and the desire for retribution, unaware of the further complications that lay ahead. The affair with Sarah was a whirlwind of emotions and physical connection. Initially, it felt like a liberating escape from the misery that had consumed my life. Sarah was attentive and understanding, offering the validation and comfort I craved. Our time together was filled with passionate encounters and deep conversations. allowing me to momentarily forget the betrayal and chaos at home. I felt a sense of control and power that had been missing since discovering Jessica's infidelity. However, as the affair progressed, I began to experience a range of conflicting emotions. While there were moments of exhilaration and empowerment, there was also an underlying guilt that gnawed at me. I knew I was compounding the betrayal by engaging in an affair of my own, and this realization made it difficult to fully enjoy my time with Sarah. The initial thrill started to fade, replaced by a sense of confusion and moral conflict. The consequences of my actions became more apparent as the affair continued. My relationship with Jessica, already strained, deteriorated further. Our arguments escalated, and the emotional distance between us grew wider. The affair, meant to be a form of retribution, only added to the complexity of our situation. I found myself caught in a web of lies and deceit, struggling to maintain a facade of normalcy at home while pursuing a clandestine relationship with Sarah. As the reality of my actions set in, I began to question whether this path of revenge was truly worth it. The temporary sense of empowerment I felt was overshadowed by the growing sense of guilt and the realization that I was hurting not only Jessica, but also myself. The emotional turmoil became too much to bear, and I started to see that seeking revenge had only deepened the wounds rather than healing them. I was left grappling with the consequences of my choices, unsure of how to find a way out of the mess I had created. The day Jessica discovered my affair was the day everything came crashing down. She had suspected something was amiss, and her intuition led her to investigate. When she confronted me with evidence of my infidelity, I saw the same hurt and betrayal in her eyes that I had felt when I discovered her affair. It was a moment of painful clarity, and the reality of our actions hit us both with full force. Jessica's reaction was a mix of anger and devastation. She couldn't believe that I had stooped to the same level, and the confrontation that followed was explosive. We hurled accusations at each other, each of other in our own ways, and the trust that once existed between us was now completely obliterated. In the midst of the confrontation, I had a profound realization. The cycle of infidelity and revenge had only brought more pain and destruction into our lives. We were both victims and perpetrators, caught in a spiral of hurt and retribution. I saw that continuing down this path would only lead to more suffering for both of us. The emotional exhaustion from months of turmoil made it clear that our marriage, as it stood, was beyond repair. Deciding to end the marriage was not an easy choice, but it was necessary for both our sakes. The need for closure and a chance to heal became paramount. We agreed that it was time to part ways and try to find some semblance of peace and self-discovery apart from each other. The unexpected twist of discovering each other's infidelities forced us to confront the deeper issues in our relationship and acknowledge that staying together would only prolong the agony. We needed to let go to find a chance at healing and moving forward. Receiving the divorce papers was a sobering moment. I expected it, but when the documents arrived, it still felt surreal. As I skimmed through the legal jargon, I noticed something unusual in the terms. There was a clause that caught my eye, something Jessica had added that I hadn't anticipated. It was a request for joint counseling sessions as part of the divorce proceedings, aimed at helping us understand and cope with the emotional fallout of our actions. At first, I was confused and even a bit annoyed. Why would she want to go through counseling when we were already ending our marriage? But as I thought about it, I realized that it was her way of seeking closure and understanding. She wanted us to face our mistakes and learn from them, not just walk away without addressing the deeper issues. It was an unexpected move that showed a level of maturity and a desire for personal growth that I hadn't given her credit for. Our final confrontation was more subdued than our previous ones. We discussed the terms of the divorce and the surprise clause. Jessica explained that she believed we both needed help processing the pain and betrayal to prevent carrying these unresolved issues into future relationships. Reluctantly, I agreed, seeing the wisdom in her request. It was an opportunity to find some semblance of peace and perhaps even forgiveness. The counseling sessions were intense and emotionally draining. We delved into the reasons behind our actions, the unmet needs, and the lack of communication that had led us to this point. It was painful to relive the betrayal and hurt, but it also provided clarity. We began to understand each other's perspectives and the ways we had both contributed to the breakdown of our marriage. The sessions didn't absolve us of our mistakes, but they offered a path to healing and closure. As I reflect on the entire journey, I realize how much I've learned and grown from the experience. The betrayal, the revenge, and the eventual end of our marriage were all painful, but they forced me to confront my own flaws and the dynamics of our relationship. I learned the importance of communication and the destructive power of unaddressed grievances. I also discovered that revenge only perpetuates a cycle of pain and does not lead to true healing. Jessica and I have both moved on in our own ways. The counseling sessions helped us find a sense of closure and understanding. We are no longer angry at each other, but have found a way to coexist peacefully, each of us focusing on our personal growth and future. The lasting impact of our actions serves as a reminder of the consequences of betrayal and the importance of trust in any relationship. The journey wasn't easy, but it was necessary. It taught me that healing is a process that requires facing difficult truths and learning from our mistakes. It also showed me that sometimes the best way to heal is to let go and move forward. The unpredictable path to healing led me to a place of self-discovery and resilience. It wasn't the ending I had envisioned, but it was a resolution that allowed me to find peace. In conclusion, this story is a testament to the complexities of love and betrayal. It highlights the importance of trust, communication, and the need to address issues before they spiral out of control. Betrayal has far-reaching consequences, and the path to healing is often unexpected and challenging. But through it all, there is a possibility for growth and a chance to rebuild a stronger, more self-aware future. Trust is the cornerstone of any relationship, and once it's broken, the consequences can be devastating. My journey through betrayal and revenge taught me valuable lessons about the importance of communication, understanding, and the destructive nature of unaddressed issues. It's a reminder that seeking revenge only perpetuates a cycle of pain and doesn't lead to true healing. Instead, facing our mistakes and learning from them is the path to personal growth and resolution. Thank you for joining me on this emotional journey. If you've had similar experiences or have thoughts to share, please leave a comment below. Your stories and insights can help others navigate their own paths to healing. Remember, even in the darkest times, there's always a possibility for growth and a chance to rebuild a stronger future. Thank you for being a part of Narrative Stories. Your support and engagement mean the world to us. We are committed to bringing you the best in storytelling. What kinds of stories would you like to see next? Share your thoughts in the comments below.